Welcome back to Echo Ridge. Today, well, we're in trouble. As many of you may remember from the last episode, I made the calculated decision to let dupes run around mask-free inside of the giant slime biome, where they of course caught a bunch of slime lung. What we didn't expect were dupes also coming down with zombie spores. Zombie spores are the real risk. Unfortunately, no matter where I look, there are no zombie spores. These are fake zombies. So I don't even think I'm going to bother with it, unless, of course, we keep getting more dupes with zombies. The slime lung, though, there is something I could do about it. But to start off with, I can't even hit the play button because we have a pod ready to print, so let's go ahead and start off with a new dupe. Oh, this is not starting off very well, is it? We have a bottomless stomach, unempathetic, and unconstructive dupe. Who hurt you, Steve? Joshua too is unconstructive and only has one interest, so I think in this case it's going to be Bert. Unfortunately, Bert does have several negative traits, but they're not too bad. Plus, we could always use more farmers and more ranchers, but the best thing about Bert is they start off with a +7 athletics. Bring on the slime lung, Bert. Welcome to the colony here at Cycle 244, duplicate number 84. Kill-a-who. Now I can finally hit play and let all these skill point notifications go away. I don't want to spend too much time loafing about because we have a lot to do. And at the beginning of every episode, I normally go through a skill point check, quite frankly because I don't do it multiple times per episode, because with so many dupes, it just takes a long time. My strategy for doing this is just looking for dupes that have a low current morale requirement, which means, well, they don't have a lot of skill points. Today I'm looking for anybody who has a 5 or below. For instance, Eric Royal, who's going to be going into exosuit training, which is another +2 to athletics, which is always good. Here's Forever Lost in Oz, who's still getting their starting 3. Most dupes that come into the colony are going into improved carry, rocket piloting, and then suit sustainability just for that plus on the athletics, and not necessarily into their main job. Hence the reason I don't put their hat on them. I'm still a little bit behind because, as you can see, we only have 58 duplicants with suit sustainability training, but we are definitely coming along. One exception I make, though, is when a duplicant has an interest in researching, I'll start them off with the advanced research. That way they get their skill points faster. Here in the example of Cold Edge, we can now go improved carry, rocket piloting, and just wait for another skill point. The other issue that we've been running into is this giant mess of a biome where we're going to be building an industrial sauna and still have plenty of work to do. Well, we have managed to core out this entire side where all of the nasty chlorine was, but the polluted oxygen pressure is not that great because now that the duplicants are in here without suits, they're breathing all the polluted oxygen, hence the reason all of the slime lung. It's not too big of a deal. As a reminder, the slime lung only gives them a -3 to athletics, but even just wearing an oxygen mask gives them a -2 to athletics. We've also started doing some of these sweeps because, well, there's a lot of bleach stone sitting around here, which is only causing more ridiculous chlorine in and around the biome. The second priority for today's episode is going to be working on this spawn, because if I can start pumping oxygen in here, well, it'll start compressing all those other gases like chlorine and carbon dioxide down to the bottom. But I think the first priority is going to be setting up a hospital. And here's why. If we take a look at this graph that I found in the wiki, which I found to be a much more consolidated resource as far as looking at all of the medicines and their ingredients, we can see that I can cure the slime lung when I'm using a sick bay and a medical pack. The medical pack only takes balm lily flowers and phosphorite. Well, we know phosphorite's not going to be an issue because we have Drecos producing it. Well, when they're able to eat more mealwood, some of these little guys are starving because there's only 5 mealwood. It's enough to keep them going, but every once in a while somebody gets a little unhappy and grumpy because they're hungry. And oddly enough, from all of our coring out, we have been given 440 units of balm lily flower, so that ingredient isn't too bad either. But I thought it might be handy just to throw down a couple of balm lilies just to have a sustainable source. And we have this giant area of chlorine gas just begging to come out that we were originally going to use for some squeaky puffs. Well, now that I'm away from the puffed idea, There's no reason why I can't start throwing things in like salt vines and balm lilies. Although I don't even know if the salt vines are necessary, considering we're going to be getting all the salt we want from desalinators. So step one here is going to be getting rid of all these extra gases, vacuuming it out, and then I'll just let all this chlorine gas go. In other news, the Bionic DLC pack has been released, and one of the awesome little updates is we now have different colors for our wires. If you ever have a colony that you started before a DLC drop and you want to activate it, all you have to do is go to your escape menu and then click the icon for the DLC. We will confirm, and because this colony is a beast, it's going to take a second, do a quick reload, and voila, we're back, and now the Bionic DLC is activated. And by going back to the research screen, you can see that now data science has been added with data miner, the remote worker dock, and the remote controller. But considering we are printing a new dupe every 3 cycles on this colony, I don't know if there's going to be too much playing with the Bionics, but we may set a number in the future. Let's say that I hit 200 duplicants. Well, at that point, I've sort of achieved the whole max duplicant thing, and I'll give myself a break and maybe not print a new dupe every 3 cycles. I don't know, we'll see. But the great thing about the balm lily is, well, it doesn't eat anything. It just has to live in a chlorine bath and stay between 35 and 85 degrees. Hence the reason why if we do ever decide to go with mass Drecos, it's sort of an easy way to get an infinite amount, well, space being your limited factor, of both barbecue from the Drecos and also their phosphorite, because Drecos will eat balm lilies. But now for the subject at hand, I really need to get a hospital up. Speaking of which, do we have any doctors? Ah, yes. So far we have 2 fully trained doctors in the colony. Both have the required bedside manner to be able to use the sick bay to cure slime lung. Now where am I going to put it? Having it somewhat centrally located would be convenient, and we are going to have multiple living areas here on the colony, so I'm thinking maybe right here. We do have oxygen being pumped here, so that's not a big deal. Taking a look at the hospital requirements, it requires the old medical equipment, toilet, mess table, and no industrial machine. Has a maximum size of 96 tiles. The reason why this is important is because if we take a look at the sickbay, we can see that building the sickbay in a hospital to more effectively quarantine sick dupes, I don't know if it's really a requirement. I mean, do you have to quarantine a dupes for using a medical pack? To be honest, I don't know. I have almost 2,900 hours in ONI and I've never had to quarantine a dupe. In fact, I've never cured slime lung either. So I don't really know if dupes have to be quarantined to cure the slime lung. So we're gonna learn sort of together. I'm also gonna set up a nice little pharmacy here to make it a convenient spot for duplicants to come get their medicines. And to start off with, I think we're going to put down the apothecary so a doctor can sort of get to work. Now I'm going to be using refrigerators to control how many slime lung packs we are creating. Granted, they never go bad, but it'd still be a sort of convenient thing to do. That way I can set it and forget it. We'll start off our hospital with a couple of triage cots. Not that our duplicants ever really need them, because as you know, duplicant safety is the #1 priority here at Echo Ridge Gaming. Starting off with the apothecary and refrigerator setup, I'm going to set this to say 5 kilos and then use a knot gate. Oh, we have different color knot gates now too. Oh, let's do... Oh, actually, is this yellow? Bright slug could be green or yellow, but we're going to go with it. And what this will do is when the refrigerator is full, it'll send out a green signal. We'll flip it. Now, the only bad thing about this is you can really only set each apothecary to 1 medicine. Hence the reason I made some extra room in case we ever need a different medicine. But this way I can say medical packs forever and then just hook up the automation. And voila, we have a medical pack that for some reason Gina is taking and now delivering it to the sick bay. That's going to work out well. But for some reason, I'm not seeing medicine on the refrigerators anymore. I'm wondering if that changed. I could have sworn I've done this with refrigerators before. Maybe it was the smart storage bin that I did this with. And look at this, we have a duplicant getting cured of slime lung. How very nice. Slime lung antibodies here on Kilo Who. Well, that didn't take long for them to get slime lung. They just got printed. now has the antibodies and cannot get sick for 2.5 cycles. Now, some of you may be wondering why I'm not making serum vials. Well, and that's just because I don't have sun nymph eggs. And while yes, I could start a shine bug ranch and start guaranteeing the fact that we'd get some sun nymph eggs, by the time we got that set up and they started breeding effectively, we're not going to have anybody else with zombie spores. Because once again, I don't know what happened, but Lady Ruff and Zadnax got imaginary zombie spores because there aren't any on the colony. Man, we're actually churning through some of this, so I think I'm going to try to make room for another sick bay. And here it is in this smart storage building. It now has medical supplies, so I can load it up with medical packs, and I'm going to say 10 kilos. And as you can see, because it's not full, it's setting on a red signal, which is going to enable the apothecary. Over here with our bomb lily growing factory, even though we have over 45 bomb lilies, it would be nice to get some sort of sustainable amount. Now granted, the duplicants aren't going to love to be breathing in here, so I do think this might be an opportunity for another atmosuit dock. I'm not too worried about the heat coming out of here because, well, once we get the industrial sauna around here, I'm going to be adding another whole base cooling loop to this side of the colony. Right now we have one that goes up here, so I figure we'll have one that goes over here once we have another dupe living area. And those dupes are going to be primarily concerned with the industrial sauna. We have 2 sick bays set up, and this one already has 3 medical packs. Looks like Jay and Mort is waiting for their treatment. We do have errands for the doctors, so I want to go through the skills and see who else has the potential to be a good doctor. 80-something dupes, you'd figure I have more that were interested, but this might be a new way for me to treat slime lung. It's not something I've done very often, but to instant cure a disease that gives a dupe -3 to athletics, that seems like not a bad idea. Really? Have I not hired that many doctors? Jeffrey Cook is a potential doctor, so there's 3, although they don't have another skill point to go into bedside mannering. Jackie is also a doctor. Unfortunately, they have 0 skill points right now. I'll have to keep Jackie in mind. Casey Starr as well. Also interested in becoming a doctor, 0 skill points. Carolita, though, has 6 skill points. Oh, this is going to max out Carolita. But we have another doctor. Levidian, also a doctor, 0 skill points. Queen Calero has the skill points to go all the way to advanced medical care, which I want to take a look and see what the bonus to medicine does for our apothecary use and sickbay. That gives us 4, though. Road diets rule. Okay, we had a lot more doctors than I expected. Sammy boy, welcome to sickbay. So the errand list on the sickbay includes the person who's visiting the doctor and then the doctor treating the patient. Now, Sammy boy here has a medicine rating of 4, which means their treatment speed is plus 80% and their medicine fabrication speed is plus 40%, which means they make medicine much faster and they treat the patient much faster. Like, check out JM Mort. Medicine of 14. Very nice treatment speed. And in fact, I'm going to put a nice light over this so whenever they are making the medicine packs, it'll go much quicker. And of course, we will put a weight plate here, which means I'm going to have to redesign this system. Give me 1 second. Well, not before I print out another dupe. Okay, I don't know if this was intended. Are all my dupes going to be Bionic Dupes? I am not prepared. I have no idea what we're doing with Bionic Dupes, and I have to print one of these. All right, taking a look at this. It looks like they start with pre-installed boosters, which is how we get them to do one thing or another. I like the suit training booster, which gives them a +5 to athletics, but they have decreased construction, decreased creativity, and no passive attribute leveling. I guess all the Bionic Dupes have that? Please tell me not every pod is going to be a Bionic Dupe now. If so, I will end up reloading to before the Bionic DLC was enabled, because this wasn't a part of this. I thought you'd get one every once in a while. I guess we're going to go with this Eduardo? So welcome to the colony, Dupe-ish number 85, the aptly named Screwy Girl. Get it? Because she has screws? Because she's a robot? Screwy Girl here. They have an oxygen tank, and they also have gunk that's building up. So step 1 is going to be able to find how in the world am I going to provide oxygen for them. This is not what I wanted to do today. Why do you forsake me, game? How do I get more oxygen tanks? Is it just like a normal tank of oxygen? I'm also going to need a gunk distractor, a lubrication station, gear balm, a soldering station that provides advanced electronics and bionic boosters. Why, Clay? Why? Alright, just because I do not want them to run out of oxygen, my theory is they are literally just taking oxygen tanks right out of a canister filler. I'm hoping. So I'm just going to load one up just like that. Can we please not kill the first robot on the colony? And apparently I need joules. I have a new icon up here. This is Bionic Duplicants use a minimum of 120 kilojoules per cycle. So taking a look at our stress meter, Screwy Girl's already starting to get some stress, and we need to figure that out. Let's go ahead and click that follow cam. What's going on with you? We have some eye irritation. Okay, no big deal. Power bank is still good. Apparently all the new Bionic Dupes start with 4 power banks. Why don't we come over here into the water there, Screwy Girl? Because I suspect that's the reason why their stress is going up, because they've been walking through water. Come on, you bucket of screws. Liquid exposure. Oh yeah, that's not pleasant. And now we can see we get the 200% increase in stress for liquid exposure. Alright, well, at least it won't kill them. So it looks like the first priorities I need to deal with is the gear oil and the gunk. And it says the gunk needs to be extracted, and then we're going to have to add more gear oil eventually. I also noticed in the clay short that apparently when Bionic Dupes sleep, they end up producing a bunch of light. So I need to fix that and make sure they're in a room that nobody cares about the light. In fact, I'll just do one cot. Looking at the priority listing, priorities still look pretty similar, but the skill tree is much different. As I understand it, these boosters give skills basically the same way that, well, regular dupes get them, except they get them by these little chips. And then their skill tree itself, which Bionic Dupes do seem to start with one right out of the pod, just like a normal dupe when they're printed after colony creation. And you can see there's sort of upgrades like additional booster slots, 50% grinding gears penalty reduction, and some scematics. This is going to take a little while for me to get a handle on. The next thing I want to worry about is the oxygen, and I'm not going to learn until Screwy Girl actually runs out of oxygen. So I'm going to check out some of these buildings. I'm also going to assign Screwy Girl somewhere in here. Here they are, to this cot. And also remove these pneumatic doors because it doesn't matter if they get lit up. Now for the Bionic station. Over here in the crafting station, it does look like I can create metal power banks. They require ores or uranium. They all provide 120 kilojoules. So why don't I just queue up a couple of power banks? As a matter of fact, I'm not going to. That way we can see what happens when Screwy Girl runs out of power. We have a soldering station here, which looks like it produces those bionic boosters. But I'm looking for something that deals with the gunk. Here we go, the gunk extractor. It's considered a flush toilet. Well, I do have toilets over here. So why don't I just put the gunk extractor right here? We'll make it out of gold. And it does have a liquid output. I'm assuming that's where the gunk goes. The last little thing I have to worry about is the gear oil itself. Doesn't look like that happens here at the crafting station. Going over to the gear oil database, and the only thing listed are the 2 elements, which is crude oil and phyto oil. It looks like you need a liquid output, so why not use a handy dandy buffer tank for now until we learn what happens. Oh, I just realized I've been hooking salt water up to my bathrooms. This is a big mistake. Luckily, I did not finish the route that was going to the pea water recycling. That's what I get for being colorblind once again, or just not paying attention. Here's some regular water, so I will feed right off of this one. I could come off of the normal bathroom system, but this seemed like a longer run, especially considering when I have plenty of fresh water in and around here. So I will just use the water coming from that desalination station, and then I will send all this salt water back into here. And then just rehook it up to the waste system, because we already have a water sieve here, whereas the water sieve down here, I don't know how long these are going to be here. Granted, we have a lot of water to go through. More research on Screwy Girl. It does look like they use the 100 grams per second of oxygen just like a normal dupe. So you're not actually going to be saving any oxygen by using Bionic Dupes. Just sort of changing the way it happens. Oh, we just missed an oxygen tank refill. I suppose I do have some oxygen tanks here from leftover suits, but I'll try to see what happens the next time they use all their oxygen. Back to work on the SPOM. We are getting close. Couple more hydrogen generators. I'm gonna need that liquid in. I don't know where this actually... I'll start using this liquid pump right here. That is where our liquid will come in. And then using wonderful wire. I mean, why not use bubblegum conductive wire and our lead? Another change I was noticing when I was assigning Screwy Girl's schedule is there's a new schedule type, and by default, Screwy Girl was assigned to it. It looks like they can go 2 days before they end up doing some downtime and getting some bedtime. For now, I'm not going to adjust this until we start to learn more about it. And I think I'm going to start with the grinding gears penalty reduction and then find out exactly what that is. Because, well, I don't need Screwy Girl to be doing that much, so I don't need another booster slot. And the best I can tell you is that upgrade significantly reduces the negative impacts of low gear oil, which we haven't really figured that out yet. Other than the fact it seems like I can make gear balm inside the apothecary. Well, we just so happen to have built an apothecary, and there it is. It'll require 200 kilos of water and 80 kilos worth of gunk. So basically it's like an oil change, because you don't actually lose the water, you're given 200 kilos worth of polluted water back. So when we think of gear oil and gunk, we can directly relate that to a duplicant's bathroom usage. And since I already have a gunk extractor, I just need a way to get gear oil back in. And the two options seem to be applying the geared balm manually, but it specifically says that it provides a small amount of lubricating gear oil. So what's the other way? Let's check out some of the source ingredients of the gunk, one of them being crude oil. And I don't see an updated database entry here. Here it is under medicine. The lubrication station uses phyto oil or crude oil to keep Duplicant's bionic parts running smoothly. I don't know if I love this. I do have access to crude oil. Unfortunately, it's a bit warm, so that'll require a bunch of insulated pipes. But does the temperature of the crude oil impact the bionic dupe? That I don't really know. And would it heat this building up? Not that it matters, we have the cooling system. But it does look like I can do something with this gunk. I can turn it into petroleum and sulfur at 447 degrees. That sulfur would be handy in feeding our divergents. Or we could just use the gear balm, because it'll directly take the gunk and a little bit of water and make the gear balm. And while staring at this, I've realized another design flaw. When we got rid of the oxygen masks and duplicants could go through here, well, it also means they could go back through here. But if they used the bathroom, which they're always supposed to go to bed afterwards, and for some reason went out through here, they'd be walking around with food poisoning. So I need to get rid of this entrance here. So why don't I close that up? And I think I'm just going to make another apothecary station up here and set up the same sort of system we did before with a smart storage bin, with another knot gate, and then we'll use the same sort of automation we used with the medical packs curing slime lung, except now we'll just keep 5 kilos worth of gear oil inside the smart storage bin. Which reminds me, I do want to put some auto sweepers here for the simple reason I want them automatically loaded into the smart looking storage system. And it also looks like with the new Bionic DLC, we've got a bunch of new wallpapers. I think I'm going to use this phage circuit since this is going to be our Bionic room. Which then begs the question, when the Screwy Girl goes and deposits all the gunk, which I assume is going to happen at the downtime, how long does it take? In other words, how many Bionic dupes can I fit in this schedule while only using one gunk extractor? And I think I unpaused and let the cycle slip once again. Oh dear goodness, now this is going to get even more difficult. But I am glad to see that I get both Bionic dupes and normal dupes. And I think until I learn a little bit more about our new droid dupes, I'm going to try to stick to regular duplicants as much as possible. So welcome to the colony, duplicant number 86, M. Ralphs? Mr. Alves? Or maybe just Ralphs? A little tutorial popped up that said the Bionics dupe do require the power banks to function and will require a dupe to reboot them. But I have a feeling that if they are incapacitated and out of power, they're not going to be able to recharge their oxygen tanks. But basic power banks can be made at the grafting station, which means I should probably automate this somehow We do have an automation port, so I could use the same sort of system. I'd like to put it in here, so maybe I will get rid of this. Keep that for a minute, and just extend it down, and I can put a crafting station here, keeping all of our bionic stuff in one area. And other good news, the only 2 sick dupes left are the ones with zombie spores, because our wonderful new hospital, I have outfitted it with a balm lily print, because you know how most doctor's office has flower pictures. On top of that, each sick bay is loaded with 9 medical packs, so anytime a duplicant ends up getting slime lung, they're going to come to urgent care and get instantly cured. This is definitely the way to deal with slime lung in the future. Now, as far as the oxygen system in here, remember I did add a vent right here, and you can see it's given a lot of oxygen, pushing some of this down, which is very helpful. Oh, and there's still more bleachstone hiding. But that's not too big of a deal here in a few, because we are about done with this bomb. And I think temporarily I am just going to output all of the oxygen right here. Uh-oh, circuit power level. That's the indication. Alright, Screwy Girls ran out of power, and it says Bionic Duplicant incapacitated. They are powerless. Okay, that's not a big deal. I don't know how a Bionic Dupe gets major eye irritation, but okay. Their oxygen tank is still being used. But other than the oxygen issue, because I'm assuming when they're incapacitated and powerless, they're not able to get more oxygen. So let's create them one quick metal power pack. In fact, I might as well do 4. One thing to note that the power banks do require 60 seconds of crafting, unlike something like a mask that only takes 20 seconds. So I'll definitely want to put a light above the crafting station we're using to make power banks. Oh, here we go. Looks like Jackie Mogg is rescuing the dupe. Don't know what they're doing. Reboot in process. I'm guessing they're inserting another power bank. Yep, there it is. Metal power bank, 120 kilojoules. Look at that, and they still had 74 kilos worth of oxygen. But I need to keep an eye on you. I want to see how you breathe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move Screwy Girl inside this room, and then I'm not going to let them in or out. Who's suffocating now? Oh, Doritos P, why would you do that? Oh my goodness. Screwy Girl looking for oxygen refills, and it does look like they're taking it from a tank. Oh, that can't taste good. Alright, so I just have to have tanks available? So while we do have plenty just sitting around the base, I will try to keep 1 canister filler going for the just-in-case purposes. But yeah, Screwy Girl's oxygen tank is now back up to 233 kilos. And instead of using a liquid reservoir, because I need the gunk to be able to make gear bomb, I'm going to deconstruct this liquid reservoir, and I'm going to use the new bottle filler, because right now there is 73.5 kilos worth of gunk, and it looks like the gunk maker requires 80 kilos. So it might be a negative process, so I'm going to have to figure out an overflow here. As a reminder with the smart storage bins, if you do not have them plugged into power, they will not be able to emit any sort of green signal. This storage bin is filled, and there's a bunch of medical packs laying here, and I'm suspecting that the apothecary is still running just because the smart storage bin is not actually powered. What are we waiting for? One more power line. There we go, and as soon as it powers, it is able to send out its green signal, which after I snip this wire that was still there, then turns off the apothecary so we don't have to keep making more medical packs. Now I am concerned about these power banks. There has to be a better way of doing this that I will keep looking into, because this takes a metal ore, which is not a renewable resource. But for now I will queue up metal bank production forever, and then I will do the same sort of knot system here, just like that. I'm going to set this bin to 10 kilos. And then tell me there's a power bank. Here we go. There's a power bank section. Everything's kind of turning out well. Despite there being an absolute ton of slime lung in this biome, we have no duplicants with slime lung. Hospital for the win. Zadnax, who is still suffering from zombie spores, only has another 7.2 cycles remaining, so as long as we keep an eye on our 2 zombies, we should be okay. Zadnak being the second duplicant who got it, so Lady Ruff will be cured first. Here we go again. I have 2 chips and a Stela. I am not prepared for this. But I suppose at least Screwy Girl will get a friend. I'm not big on having Chip do a bunch of digging, because that increases their chances of getting into water, which then stresses them out. This Chip has decreased science and strength, but they start with a +5 to cuisine and a +2 to athletics. Whereas the Farmer Stela, that should relatively keep them out of any sort of water. Welcome to the colony, duplicate number 87, Jackie Chica. Time to make Jackie a new bed. Oh, and there's Jackie's spare power banks. Apparently they spit them out every time a new Bionic Dupe is created. And as soon as Noosh and Tony do move out of the way, you can see I have used the new retro LED crafting table, and we have power bank production automated. I am waiting for another gunk drop off because right now I don't see any lube that is able to be created in here. And it looks like Screwy Girl is down to about 80 kilos, so I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that. If I have to, I will start using the lubrication station and using our oil, but I'd rather not if I could avoid it. Our SPOM is about ready to be fired on. I'm gonna take all of the junk gases and spit them into a buffer tank before we start running them into these hydrogen generators, which I just realized I am still gonna get one piece of damage, so I will open those back up because no doubt there's going to be a little bit of damage. The way you can tell this is right here. Well, it says it's empty. Oh, but no, as soon as this gas pump starts to flow, it's gonna go into this gas pipe first. So whatever's sitting in here is gonna be the first thing that gets stuck in that bridge. So I suppose without further ado, let's just plug it in. All I have to do is provide some sort of power source to jumpstart this whole thing. I've got one right here. We will use lead, and I'll just do something like that. It'll definitely blow this circuit a couple times, but that's not a big deal. Oh, it looks like we've finished draining this, which means it's finally time to bulldoze through and start work on the power spine. Although I am going to wait until this spawn gets going because I want this whole thing to be oxygenated. Looking at the research tree, it looks like I have access to a power bank charger. Converts empty eco power banks into fully charged units. Unfortunately, I don't know if the eco power banks are kicked out when a duplicant starts using them. We do now have access to compact dischargers, which basically set up new grids. So for instance, oh look, a power bank charger. So if I take a compact discharger, stick a battery in it, it then provides a source of power for whatever grid that you put it on, which could be convenient in instances like this, where we're running this whole thing just off of dupe power. In this colony, it doesn't matter, we have plenty of dupe power. We've reached equilibrium down here, so I can reset this. We'll say 250. Above 450, above 450. Yes, everything looks good here, which means I can seal that up. And now that is nothing but pure hydrogen coming out of there. So I can separate it from there. Oh, there's a little bit of O2 in there, but that's why we left it open for it to be repaired. No big deal. And then I'm just gonna blow this up. What do we end up with? All sorts of smattering of gases. And it also means I can disconnect this from the power line as the standard. Be gone. Whew. And now we have oxygen for duplicants 90 to 120. This should last us quite some time. Now I'm going to have to start looking at where we're going to send all this excess hydrogen. Of course, we will try to burn off that heat using a hydrogen generator. I will use gold. In fact, what I'm going to do here is provide a sort of quasi buffer tank, just using pipes, and then go in. It gives it a little bit of storage because this one will go onto a battery, at least until we have the power grid set up, and then we'll move all that over, along with all the other hydrogen generators on the colony, and plug them directly into the spine. And this will have a little bit of hydrogen to be able to use because we're going to have it power these suits, which don't take too much power. We'll deliver one there, we'll deliver one there. I think the first use of this leg will be keeping these suits oxygenated. The other two legs, one's going to stay in this area. In fact, both of them may stay in this area, but these lines look like they need a little bit of help. You can see they get pretty thin here, and in fact, our Slime Ranch Atmosuit docks, one line is just too much for all these suits. You normally only want about 5 suits per line of oxygen, depending on usage. And these two have plenty of work to do, so I'm going to cut these off. And you are now responsible for filling these suits, which I can make that a little cleaner. I'll put it in the middle. Whoa, why are you getting hydrogen in your lines? Oh, because we're all sorts of backed up. How are we not using enough power in this whole thing? I mean, we have 2 pumps that are providing oxygen, so those are definitely running at 240 watts each. It's probably because we're not actually in the Slime Ranch because we're not using these suits, because the suits aren't filled. And so when we're not in the slime ranches, the auto sweepers have less of a reason to work. Alright, so this problem is going to fix itself. You are no longer supplying oxygen to the bottom part of the base. In fact, this third leg from that new spawn will help do that. And then in any sort of hydrogen system like this, you do have to have a backup just in case this gets filled. And I will do it just like this. So the hydrogen would rather go through the bridge and fill this area up. But if that is too full, we'll send it over to this hydrogen generator, which I suppose there's not a lot on this line. I can use less coal and just hook both of these up to this. Yeah, that'll work. That hydrogen battery's on 9060, so I will set these on 9040. And apparently this one hasn't been set yet. So hydrogen first and then coal. But once again, hopefully next episode, that's not going to be an issue anymore. Oh, I still have all this sweeping to do. Gotta get rid of all this bleach stone. But it looks like we're finally ready to burrow through this. That's a bummer. We'll have to work around that for now. The great thing about boring through this now is all this carbon dioxide and chlorine is going to drop. And since we do have oxygen being produced here, it's going to compress it fairly well. I was thinking about during this episode setting up the cooling loop, but it doesn't really make sense because all that should be going in our industrial sauna. Since we're going to be creating so much heat in there, it just makes sense to put the thermal aqua tuners in there. Now, it's obviously not going to go here, so maybe here? Then I can add some more dupe living conditions here. I don't know. We got a lot to think about. I just realized all my ranches are overcrowded because I haven't set this up and it's been sitting here waiting. How has so many grubs gotten dropped off in here? We only want 3. All the eggs are coming here and being dropped off here, which then should be being picked up by these folks here. And once they are picked up, they are heading into our wonderful evolution chamber. Oh man, this is a lot of ore that I do not have. This one's correct. These are not. Let's go ahead and kill some of these. There must have been time before I destroyed the omelet maker and after I turned on the conveyor loaders that there was still a bunch of leftover eggs in there. Cycle 257, and I'm starting to get a theme here. If you enable the Bionic DLC, you're more likely to get Bionic Dupes. In this case, we are all about medicine and taking care of our standard dupes, so we're going to take this Sonyar who starts with an advanced medical booster, which gives them automatically apothecary, sickbay, and disease clinic usage with a medicine of +5 and an athletics +2. Granted, they have a decreased machinery. I'm thinking my previous Bionic setup is not going to be enough. Welcome to the colony duplicant number 88, Cavror. In other good news, Old Lady Ruff only has 2.4 cycles until they are cured of the zombie spores. Things are looking up, although our slime ranch has now been over-oxygenated. And what's worse is when we check out our wonderful mushroom farm, we're down to 74 tons of slime. So I'm thinking after we get a handle on the power spine next episode, and the start of the industrial sauna is we're going to have to start looking at serious food creation. And right now, my best guess is going to be infinite Dreco farms, although you have to realize that every Dreco farm takes 99 tiles. At least in this configuration, we can probably get it down to 96. So even 10 Dreco farms would take about 900 tiles, and that would only feed another 30 duplicants. So we're looking at 60 duplicants around here, 90 duplicants with this many Drecos. Might have to figure something else out. Let me know in the comments below what food source you think we should be heading towards. Keeping in mind, we're trying to make it as sustainable as possible. I was also going to start a fire pole system for our power spine, and then I realized we're really running out of ores. It might also be time to go visit that neighboring planetoid to find out what kind of resources we can grab from it. But as I said before, going chlorine to bomb lily, considering the bomb lilies do not require to be fed, just sort of makes sense to run those Drecos. We do have a lot of space, but that's a whole lot of Dreco farms. Oh, look at Screwy Girl, drinking oxygen again. I hope our suit system can maintain enough of these oxygen tanks. If not, hopefully they then can grab them from the canister filler. We'll see. Probably about the time one of them runs out of oxygen. Oh, and I just realized Cavror needs a place to sleep because they're probably keeping somebody awake. I think in the future we'll also make our Bionic Duplicant sort of habitat over here as well. Now that I'm thinking about it, space is going to start to get a little bit more confined. Although we have all of this too. I put down this power bank charger that uses something called eco power banks. and it looks like it converts empty eco power banks into fully charged units. Although our crafting table doesn't seem to be able to make eco power tanks. After searching around, it looks like there's another building that I was not aware of called the soldering station, and it says it produces advanced electronics and bionic boosters. I saw this before, but now I'm starting to think maybe it creates the eco power banks, which would be great because, well, we're running out of copper ore, so the metal power banks aren't exactly where we want to go. I'll just put this here for now. It's only temporary. Like I said, we're going to create a whole bionic section because it doesn't seem like I have a choice but to be taking a bunch of bionic dupes as well. And here it is inside the soldering station. Eco power banks. They require abyssallite, which I have plenty of. So I'm just going to create like 50 of these. And it looks like insufficient resources empty power banks that they'll just take them and charge them here. And then the duplicants can use those. Which, of course, I've realized I have flipped the automation on this charging station. I was wondering why the metal ones weren't being created. But that's okay. I don't want to use those anymore. Now, this thing takes 480 watts, which isn't too bad. Ooh! Flytos! I want Flytos! And I have plastic. Let's create 5 Flytos. I'm assuming they also use power banks? Oh, perfect. It will fit in here. I'll use what little bit of gold amalgam I have left, which isn't going to be too big of a deal. I do have plenty of gold amalgam still in these biomes over here. And once again, the eco power banks do take 60 seconds to create. So having them under the lamp will give them the well lit buff. Oh, there goes an eco power bank. Heat production, 1,000 DTUs. That's a lot. I'm going to need to extend. Where's our cooling loop? Right here. Time to change this around a little bit. We'll come out of the Dreco Ranch, say here, go through the mess hall, and sort of squiggle it around here. In fact, we can make this a little bit better, can't we? I'll go through these tiles, and then all I have to do is join the loop back, which it is down here. So that's only going to take a few bridges. Give me another minute. And before I continue, we've got some more dupes. And of course, they're both bionic. This is a Stela, despite the bug of it still saying Jackie Chica. And this is a Yulti? Ulti? I like the idea of having an electrical engineer, although they do have decreased machinery, whereas this Stela has decreased science and strength. So we're going to go with the Yulti. Welcome to the colony, duplicant number 89, here on Cycle 260, Trevor Warland. The great thing about the eco power banks is it seems like they have the exact same amount of charge. The only difference being, they're not going to require us the metal ore like the other power banks. The disadvantage is, well, you're basically trading that ore for power, which is a situation I'm willing to take all day. It is 480 watts on this line, so it does push it, especially considering when we're making more things at the soldering station. Oh, look, we get to see Kevlar do their gunk drop. Oh, doesn't that feel a lot better? That's heading directly into the bottle filler. We now have 190, and it takes a 200 kilos worth of gear oil to be able to fully lubricate the bionic dupe, so we're gonna have to see how this goes. I don't know if this is a 1-to-1 ratio. Oh, look, we have a Flyto awaiting delivery power bank. I will select Eco Power Bank. How many of these things can I run? Hello, Flyto. Welcome to the world, little buddy. Doesn't look like you can get out, but maybe I can relocate you to, I don't know, in here? I'm sure you'll find some sweeps and stuff that could be done around here. Here comes Screwy Girl grabbing Flyto. Why did you drop Flyto? Well, let me try opening these doors. That seems like a smart idea. That way Flyto can fly out. And there they go. Go do good things, Flyto. And what prevents me from just making 100 of these? They're like flying sweepies. Here, buddy. Have some stuff to do. Well, I suppose the only thing that makes me not want to create 100 of them is, well, they're going to crush my frames. They are 8-directional flying robots, which means, well, their nav is going to be a little bit more complicated than a standard dupe. Oh, look at you dropping off some lead. Who's a good Flyto? They're also pretty slow. But I have Izzy here creating a bunch more power banks, and although the power bank charger doesn't specifically say how long it takes to charge one, it does seem to be a significant amount of time. Some other smaller updates, I put a temporary Weezwort cooling solution in here just to help out this oxygen a little bit. It's not going to be doing much. The oxygen's going to be a little bit too warm, but like I said, we're going to be making that industrial sauna soon, so I'm sure we'll be able to catch back up on the heat front then. Oxygen's doing a lot better around the colonies, and look at this. We only have one sick duplicant, and it's because they have food poisoning. I'll take that any day of the week. Let me know what you thought of this episode and our small introduction to Bionic Dupes. I hope you enjoyed me figuring it out along with you, and I'm sure, considering the pod keeps giving me more of them, we're going to have an opportunity to learn all about them. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.